Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our bigger show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that you can order right now from infinityflux.net or your local store if you're going by there and picking them up, or if your local store is Infinity Flux and you're coming by here to pick them up. We're giving you a better idea of what to expect when you go into your store and you see the big old wall of comics and you say, what are all these?
It's a great way, what to expect when you're expecting to get a bunch of great comics.
Yeah, that's the sequel book that
Right.
sold way less. But we've got some great books this week. Blood Hunt is continuing with some of its mini-series. We've got a return of an Ultimate book and much, much more. So let's get into it.
Yep, we're going to start with, and I have these backwards, but we're going to start with Ultimate Spider-Man.
I'm going to point to you.
And back to you, Andy, yeah. Ultimate Spider-Man number 5 continues to be a great, great series. Now, I will say that this still is doing mostly world building. There's very little Peter or Spider-Man in this. This one is more about Harry and how he became the Green Goblin, how he learned about the world and everything like that. Now, I don't really want to say how he became the Green Goblin because it wouldn't be much of a spoiler, but you should read that. You should find that out as you read it. But we will say that we do see the moment that his parents, Norman and Emily, were killed in the big, laser blast from space that we saw in Ultimate Universe last year. And shortly after that, Harry inherited all of his father's assets. But along with that, he eventually obtained other things as well. And through that action, he learned the truth about the world. That's where he first came across the technology that enabled him to build his Green Goblin suit and all that kind of stuff. So it all happened. He got all of this information, all of this new tech after his father passed away. This is also the first appearance of the Earth 6160 version of another classic Spider-Man villain. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I will say that they are not a villain yet. They might be later. We have no idea, but it is cool to see them on this Earth. We also see more of Gwen in this, and
I really like this version of Gwen.
Yeah, and what I was going to say too is she's wildly different than 616 Gwen was. Of course, this one lived a lot longer too. So, maybe 616 Gwen would have been like this had she lived well past college. But I feel like there is more to her that we have yet to learn. There's something underneath the surface that we don't quite know about this Earth's Gwen yet. But yeah, I want to try to be kind of vague. There's not a whole lot of spoilers to say, but I still want you to experience most of this as you read it. But again, it does focus mostly on Harry, how he became the Green Goblin, how he learned about the world, what he plans to do about it, how he plans to work with Peter to do it, that kind of thing. So a lot of questions answered and a lot more raised, I guess.
Let's say there's some questions answered that are like, oh, that's interesting, but some stuff that now that we're a couple of issues in and I see how Hickman is writing this, he's doing a lot of his, that was weird a couple of issues ago. Oh, now we're kind of exploring what that was, and there's stuff set up in this that I think in a couple of issues we're going to be like, oh, that's what he meant by that.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a really good kind of, every time you learn something new pops up that you don't quite get, and that's what I feel like is really keeping me on the hook with a lot of this, is we're still only seeing such a small part of this universe. And even characters that we've been following, we don't know, can I trust this person? Can I not? It's so cool to have these characters but through such a different lens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait for this to come out collected because I want to read the whole thing in one fell swoop. Because like I said, this is very light on action, but it's still super interesting, and I just want to read it all as one big story.
It's going to be super rewarding, too, going forward. You're going to be really glad. I'm glad we had this Harry Osborn issue. I'm really glad we had, the stuff with Ben and Jameson and everything, because it's just enriching the entire story.
Yep, so just another fantastic issue of Ultimate Spider-Man. And I can't wait for the next one, though, because Marco Checchetto comes back, and he's one of my favorites.
And that cover with him fighting Kingpin.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
I don't want to say anything, but there was a variant cover where you're like, Kingpin looks kind of weird in this.
That's right.
And there's something in this where you're like, it's on purpose. So just really well plotted
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, very good stuff. So we have our A cover right here, and there's a couple variants. We have the Romero variant, your classic Spider-Man versus, well, I was gonna say classic Green Goblin, but no, not really. And then we have this really cool Manhanini variant. We didn't get any Jonah or Ben in this issue, or Richard, so that's just, fun image there. And then we have this really cool 1 in 25 Messina variant that
That's
we're
cool.
selling for $24.99.
Okay, next up for me, we've got our first in our new Blood Hunt tie-in book for the week. This is Black Panther Blood Hunt #1. This, I think, is a 3-issue miniseries. I think a lot of these are 3.
Yeah, it says 1 of 3 right
Okay,
there.
yeah. So 3-issue miniseries. This takes place after issue 2 of Blood Hunt. So it's gonna be really hard to talk about these without spoiling what happened. So hopefully by now you've read issue #1 from a few weeks ago and you know kind of what's going on because we may have to spoil the big villain for the thing. But this is written by Cheryl Lynn Eaton and the art is by Farid Karami. And I start off by saying I love the art in this. It was very dynamic. It was almost reminded me of the art in Ultimate Black Panther. Like
Right,
very,
yeah.
heavy shadows, a lot of uses of blues with the highlights of orange and purples. So it's very moody, it's very dark, but still like very easy to see. And in this, we saw in the Blood Hunt #2 that Black Panther has been turned into a vampire. And what does that mean? So now he is returning to Wakanda. I feel like in this he's a little like mush brain, like a little bit like he's trying to do something, but he can't quite put all the pieces together.
Well, yeah, he's trying so hard to resist the. Well, I don't want, just in case you haven't read it. He's trying very hard. Well, he's trying very hard to resist Blade's will.
Yeah.
And also resist his own bloodlust.
Yeah.
And also trying to help the people in Wakanda. So he's just like really struggling.
Yeah, and you can tell that kind of like it's almost kind of like a waking nightmare for him
Right.
as he's trying to make it through here. So he returns to Wakanda. I'm not quite sure what I think he just wants to make sure he can defend it. But he's got a plan for how to maybe like mitigate the vampirism in it that only Wakanda can house. But for how long? While he's there, he learns that Wakanda, like everywhere on Earth, is being overrun by the vampires, and as best as he can do, he tries to fight off his bloodlust, but it's really getting hard. But Shuri's there to help him in the best way she can. But it seems like this is going to be very hard for T'Challa to remain on the hero side, especially when the kind of, I guess, the spirit or something, his influence is so strong.
Yeah, I just took it as there's been plenty of vampire stories where whoever it is, like the master vampire, can like just almost have a telepathic link to the vampires that they created themselves. I just took it as that.
Yeah. So, will Black Panther be able to pretty much not give in? Because if he goes full vampire, he's going to be very dangerous to the Avengers, to everybody. Plus, we see another. When the Dark Dimension opened up, we got the vampires. We saw the ones that were in the main series, all that. But it seems like there's more kind of weird vampire monsters.
Oh, right,
because he faces off against one that's like, this is another Dark Dimension creature.
Yeah.
So it's cool to be like, oh, it's not just those ones. There's a bunch of them. But I thought this was a really good issue. How heavily is it needed to understand the full story? So far, not too much, but I do think it is cool to see, one of the Avengers who's in it previously and how they're coping with this.
Well, and the only other thing about this is Blade sends him to Wakanda for a purpose. He says, he wants Black Panther to find these hidden ruins.
Yeah.
I have no idea what they are. Don't know why Blade wants this, so I figure into his master plan later in the main series.
Yeah.
I was really questioning that. I was like, why? And for Black Panther to know what he was looking for either, that seemed a little bit weird.
Like he returns to Wakanda, and you're like, oh, it's because he wants to like defend it, but it's like, but also he's kind of being influenced, so it's like he doesn't fully understand why he's doing what he's doing. But overall, I thought it was a super cool issue. Especially, I thought the art was very dynamic and very cool. I don't think we see him go this far
Right,
into
right, yeah.
vampire mode in this, but who knows for the future. So we've got our A cover right here, and then we also have this Davy Go variant.
Well, sticking with the Blood Hunt tie-ins for this week, we have Midnight Suns Blood Hunt #1, written by Brian Hill, and the art is by German Peralta. And I think this is maybe of medium importance to the overall story
Yeah.
so far.
They seem to be like kind of top of the tier of people who are doing something
Right.
about.
Yeah,
this.
because this involves the Midnight Suns, which is Danny Ketch, who is Ghost Rider again in this. I'm not really sure when that happened, and Johnny Blaze, and Victoria Montesi. It involves them coming together to try to figure out how to take down Blade. So maybe they'll come up with a plan to do it, because this is only a 3-issue miniseries as well. Maybe they'll come up with a plan to do it and then enact that plan later on in the main story. I have no idea. That's just a guess at this point. But this does involve Blade's associate Tulip, who we saw in the Blade series that just wrapped up. She approaches Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze about taking down Blade. She says that a while back she made Blade a promise at his request that if he ever got out of control, she would take him down, and she says she keeps her promises, so she's going to go do that. Like I said, I don't really know when Danny Ketch became Ghost Rider again, because Johnny Blaze is also back to shooting Hellfire out of a shotgun, which is exactly the status quo that it was in the 90s, and I very much like I'm all for that. I just don't know when that happened, because we didn't see that in the Ghost Rider series that just ended. It wasn't part of the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider miniseries, because that was a retro series set back in the day. So that was part I was a little bit confused on. We do see a cool sequence of the three of them taking out some vampire mercenaries, though, which is really cool. And then there's Victoria Montesi, who I don't really know much about. She's the daughter of the demon Chthon. We see her exorcising a demon from a guy, but I think that was more just to be a display of her power rather than figure into the story at all. And I felt like this issue was kind of just a gathering of the troops. They've all, like, the Midnight Suns have now come together, and now they have to figure out how to stop Blade, and then they have to actually carry out that plan. So I think we'll see that in later issues. But just another good addition to the Blood Hunt story. It feels like these characters are the ones that should be involved in a story about vampires that's called Blood Hunt. Like, these are the characters you want to go to. So it was cool to see them back together.
I also want to mention there is kind of a cold open with Blade that is very interesting in a diner. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And there's something that happens with Blade at the very end that makes you question the overall what his mindset is in this, and can he be redeemed? Is he in his own?
Is Blade himself doing this, or maybe he's being influenced?
Yes, which we don't know,
Yeah,
but
we don't
it
know.
does kind of throw some questions out there, and I thought it was a super cool scene. Too.
Yeah. There's that one single panel when I saw that I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Maybe this adds a little bit something more. So yeah, good. I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting. So we have our A cover right here by Ken Lashley. I love his artwork, and then we have the blood red sketch variant.
I love his artwork.
Yeah,
Mr. Blood Red.
Yeah, Mr. Blank Sketch. He does some great work.
Man, Mr. Blank Sketch gets covers for everything. I'm gonna go to a con and set up my table and have a banner that says like "Meet Artist Blank Sketch," and everyone can come meet you.
And he can crank out so many covers so quickly. It's amazing.
They hand you a blank one, you just hand it back. You're like, "You're welcome."
All done.
Okay, so next up, I've got Edge of the Spider-Verse #4. Now, I wasn't sure reading this, but at the end I figured out this is the final issue of this miniseries before we get our Spider Society, I guess kind of mini event or kind of mini series that's going to be its own little like it's an event but within itself.
Yeah, it's a spider event, but we don't know much about it. We don't know when it's happening or anything like that. So more to come on that.
Yeah, but the big deal about this one, as you can see on the cover, this is the first appearance of Jess Drew, the Spider-Woman who we saw in Across the Spider-Verse. This is her first appearance in comics. And if you remember in the movie, she was pregnant through it. Well, that may factor into this main story. So it's written by Nyla Magruder, and the art is by Marcus Williams, who is working on that amazing Popeye, and Eric Gapster. And in this, Jestru faces off against a hero turned villain from her universe. But it's a familiar character, but definitely through the kind of, different universe version. Especially their costume is a little bit different and everything, but it's very cool to see, oh, what does this universe's version of characters look like? Um, and she's narrating the story, even suggesting this person she's facing up. It seems like she's narrating it to the baby that she has. And she mentions that this character she's fighting, there was a chance this could have been your father
Oop.
type thing. So really interesting one there. And it's just a really nice story. It's not a to be continued anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this character show up again because it was a very solid story, very cool character. We also have a Spider Rex story in here where we see what is the dinosaur equivalent of the lizard, and what does if the lizard is a human that turns into a giant lizard, then in this universe, well, maybe it goes the other way around. Then we also have a Weapon 8 story, who is the character that was introduced early in the series. That's kind of the Spider-Man that hunts Wolverine, and he gets recruited by Aranya for the Spider Society that we are going to be getting at sometime in the future. So just another one of those kind of stories that they've had through all of these where they're recruiting different people. There is a scene where you see a bunch of spider people. There's a few we haven't seen before, so if you are into it, you could call it first cameo or whatever. There's some very silly ones, I will
Right.
say that. One in particular,
Hmm.
but overall a really fun issue, and I thought there's been some really solid stories in this run of Edge of the Spider-Verse. So we've got our A cover here with Jess Drew. The way she uses her motorcycle in along with her webbing, super cool.
Nice.
How she can kind of like swing around corners and all that.
Do you
We
mean like how Don Toretto did in the new Fast and the Furious, where they go off the bridge and he catches the wheel on the rope and
Sure,
swings?
yeah, all stuff that is completely logical and feasible. So we've got this Pete Woods homage cover. It's very cool. We've got our Forbes variant. And we have this 1 in 25 Valdaro variant we're selling for $24.99.
All right, well, my next one is a new 7-issue series from Image. This is called Grommets. And this is written by Rick Remender and Brian Posehn. The art is by Brett Parson. And I want to call out the colors, too. The colors are by Moreno Denizio. And I'll talk more about the colors in a minute. So this book is a really nice breath of fresh air. It's not a superhero book. It's not a crime book. It's not a drama, horror, supernatural. There's nothing like that. It is just a slice of life book about two kids growing up in Sacramento, California in 1984, and it's centered all around skater culture here. And it's really cool because it's a little bit autobiographical because um, the main kid, his name is Rick Remender, and then this kid's name is Brian Posehn, and in the afterword, after the issue, it's written by both Rick Remender and Brian Posehn, and they talk about how this was their life. They grew up around skater culture and comic books and all that kind of stuff. And but it is still a fictional story because they didn't really meet each other until the late '90s, whereas in this story they're friends in the mid '80s. So it's heavily based on their life experiences growing up, but it's also still fictional. There's even a part at the end that something happens to Brian, and it's funny. It's nothing bad. Well, it's nothing really bad anyway. But and in the afterword, Brian said that actually happened to him in real life, so it's really cool. But it's all about Rick. It centers on Rick here. He's the new kid in town, and he is struggling to fit in at his new school. Every kid that he talks to kind of brushes him off. He tries to, make some friends with some other kids with skateboards who are going off to a skate park, and they kind of brush him off. But then he meets Brian, who is also a skater kid, and tells him, goes to the skate park with him. And then there's something really kind of funny happens. I don't want to tell you what it is. This isn't a kind of book that it's like, oh, major spoilers, but I still just want to let you experience it
Yeah.
as you read it. But it's just a really fun book that there aren't a lot of other books like this right now. It's just about kids growing up. I grew up in the '80s. I did the skater thing for a while when I was a kid in the late '80s, and so obviously not out in California, so I'm sure it was different, but it spoke to me a little bit too. The art works really well. This is what the art looks like in the book. A little bit more stylized, slightly cartoony, but it really works for the story. And then the colors are great too because this takes place in sunny California, and the colors in this are very bright and vivid and vibrant, and really helps to set off the whole environment that this story takes place in. I loved this. I think this is great. It's going to make a great collective edition, which I think is how I'm going to end up getting it, so I can have one great story. And yeah, I can't wait to see like where their friendship takes them. Right, I think it's going to be really really good. So I highly recommend this if you just want a little bit of something different. Maybe you're kind of tired of superheroes or horror books or whatever. Maybe give this a shot because this is just a fun story about kids in the '80s, which I can relate to a lot. So we have our A cover right here, and then we got some cool incentive variants. We have this 1 in 10 Lapham variant right there, and I think we're gonna meet some new characters next issue. There was a couple of girls hanging out at the skate park too, so I think we'll meet them next issue. We have the 1 in 20 Wayshack variant that we're selling for $29.99. And then we have the 1 in 25 Robinson variant that we're selling for $34.99. I was just really surprised, and not surprised, but just like impressed with how good this was and how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that sounds cool because, even if you're not tired of the superhero or the horror or the sci-fi or whatever, sometimes it's nice to have a book that you don't have to worry about the kind of the rules of the
Yeah,
world. And you're like, this is, super relatable. I don't have to wait for the zombie to show up or
right.
the something. It's like, no, this is, it is what it is.
Yeah,
It's not hard on your brain.
right. Yeah, this definitely wasn't, and that's not to say it was like a dumb book, but it's just something you can like relax with.
Yeah.
You can just chill out, take a breath, read a fun story, and that's it.
Not worry about continuity.
Right.
Okay, so next up for me, I have, speaking of dense continuity, the X-Men Wedding Special #1. This is part of this year's Marvel's Voices Pride issue. But what I really like about this is usually it's anthology style with a bunch of stories, and it's a little bit like this, but they all are around the. It's not the wedding of Destiny and Mystique because we actually see when they got married in the past, but they are renewing their vows. And we see kind of the day around that. And of course, it involves the X-Men, so it doesn't go off without a hitch. Plus, these are two villains. So it's really nice. The main story is called Something Borrowed, Something Blue, which is funny because of Mystique. That's by Kieran Gillen and Rachel Stott. The art in that one is fantastic, but it's essentially them getting ready, and it's funny because Mystique like comes in, she's like, "I need your advice. Should I bring this gun or this gun?" And the Destiny's like, "Why choose or whatever?" It
Take both.
Yeah, it's a funny relationship, but Destiny definitely has some nerves about it, and it doesn't help that she can also see the future, whether that future comes to pass or not. But they start receiving gifts from some of the X-Men, and we'll say in the first story they do receive a gift from Mr. Sinister, which, you know, I don't know if I'd accept anything from Mr.
Yeah.
Sinister,
It was a clone of something, just because he's always cloning
but
people.
very interesting, which does play out later. We also get a second story that's about Betsy Braddock and Rachel Summers getting ready to go to the wedding, and it kind of explores that idea of you're in a dating relationship, but you go to a wedding,
Hmm.
and kind of the conversations that bring up about your future and all that. But also in that one, there's a lot going on with the Captain Britain Corps that
Oh yeah.
Betsy has to deal
Okay.
with. We also have another story where Wolverine needs to find a gift, and it's pretty funny because Wolverine has his own ideas of what they should get. We also have, they mentioned it earlier on, but then you see it play out. Emma Frost gets them marriage counseling by Emma Frost.
I don't
Who
know.
immediately they sit down to discuss. Enterprise is like, yeah, cut this out, and they immediately go into like the mental minefield and have to sword fight. So that's
Yep.
really fun.
Best way to work out your comics, I guess.
There's a Rogue and Gambit story, and then of course the exchanging of vows goes crazy because it's the X-Men and it's Mystique, and can you really trust anything that's going on? Just a really fun issue, especially if you're like a longtime X-Men fan. This is kind of a union that it's nice to see actually play out, and you do see back when kind of their entire history together along the way. So if you are a X fan and you want to catch up with what's going on in the characters with some fun hijinks along the way, definitely check out the X-Men Wedding Special. There's some fun backup stuff like a history of the characters and all of that. There's an Iceman story at the end as well. So we've got our A cover there. We also have this really nice Russell Dodderman variant. I love any variant that has Hercules on
Yep.
it. And this one is great. This is the Vecchio homage variant. But yeah, it's a fun issue.
All right, well, next for me is Hellverine #1. This follows on the heels of the Weapons of Vengeance story that took place crossover between Wolverine and Ghost Rider last year. It's written by Benjamin Percy. The art is by Julius Oda. And if you didn't read that Weapons of Vengeance story, it's okay for the most part because it does give you a very brief recap of what happened in the first 3 pages of this. But Hellverine is back, and Hellverine is just an amalgamation of Ghost Rider and Wolverine. Hellverine, yeah. I'm bringing Hellverine with me. But Hellverine is traveling the country, taking out various despicable people like human traffickers, and there's a couple of guys like this weird cannibal cult, that kind of thing. But while that's going on, the secret government organization known as Project Hellfire, who we saw in that Weapons of Vengeance storyline, they dig up some recently deceased but very highly trained soldiers who they want to do experiments on using Hellfire energy, which is their whole thing in the first place. And they actually are able to reanimate those soldiers with Hellfire energy. And, you know, it kind of zombifies them a little bit. It gives them special powers, that kind of thing. But they go out of control and they bust out of the facility that they're in. And Project Hellfire also manages to capture Wolverine because of all the recent stuff that's been going on with Hellverine, and they question him about it. But what he tells them in response to their questioning is pretty surprising. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you what it is. This was actually a really cool story, but I will say I found it a little tiny bit confusing because it's not linear. So it jumps around in time, you know, it starts at, it says then, and then it says like now, and then 4 days ago, and then 3 weeks ago. So it kind of jumps back and forth. I did find that to be a little bit confusing, but I think by the end, it kind of all works out and makes sense. So, yeah, just a really cool. There was some pretty, like, I almost like thought this should have been a Red Band book for a minute because there's some pretty graphic imagery in this. But it was still a lot of fun, you know. So, you know, it had that good '90s vibe, Wolverine and Ghost Rider and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed this quite a bit. So we have our A cover right here by Ryan Stegman, which looks great. We have our Mark Teixeira variant, did a lot of cool Ghost Rider stuff in the '90s. We have a Kevin Eastman variant, which is really cool. We have a Scotty Young Big Marvels variant. I really like that. I hope he's in that the Little Marvels book coming up. We have this really awesome foil Cocolo variant, who's going to be your main artist on the new Wolverine ongoing series. I really like that. And then there is the spoiler variant. So I don't want
Is
to.
it a spoiler?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to cover up half. So yeah, that's a spoiler variant, and I just want to show you that half, and that's it. And when you read it, you'll see why. And then there is the 1 in 25 Sandoval variant that we're selling for $24.99, which looks really cool.
From seeing that just over there, I'm kind of getting an idea about what's going on in that.
Right.
Okay, that's pretty cool though.
Yeah, I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay, next up for me is Darth Maul Black, White, and Red #2. This is super cool. So I really like this. Issue 1 was great, a really cool horror story. This one is by Mark Russell and Carlos Nieto. Uh, Start off with art is awesome in this. I feel like you've got to bring your A game in art when you're doing these black, white, and whatever books because I mean that's kind of the driving force behind
Sure.
this is the art.
Yeah.
And this one is great. So it's called The Remainders, and Maul is sent on a mission to this mining colony. He doesn't know. He just knows like I'm here to like take control of it. He doesn't know why or what it does for the Palpatine and why the Separatists may need it. But why is it called the Remainders? It's because this facility is run by the remainders of a lot of different wars, of bounty hunters. They're basically the people that survived. They're the best at what they do. They're very, can think through problems, and that's what's kept them alive. So you see kind of like the best of the best in here, and they're all kind of battle damaged and all of that. So Maul's going to have to go against pretty much the best of each different group in this to take over this facility, and he's got his work cut out for him. But I thought this was a really great issue. I don't want to give into spoilers because it's just a one and done story, but
Mm.
it's still really good with some really cool characters. And, maybe some survive. You'll have to read it to find out how that's even possible when Maul comes a
Yeah, right.
knocking. But art's great, super dynamic, a ton of action. So here is our A cover. This is the Tyler Kirkham variant, which is super cool. We also have this Earl's variant. And we have this 1 in 25 Marquez variant. We're selling for $39.99. I say keep these coming. I'd love to see like a Boba Fett green or something like
Like black,
that.
white, and green or
Yeah,
something.
or something like that. I think that would be really, really
Yeah.
cool to get more of these one shot of characters.
But pick a character with a weird color palette. Like, I want to see like black, white, and mauve
Yeah.
or chartreuse
You
or
could
something.
do Mace Windu and do black, white, and
Purple, there you go.
That would be
I'd read
pretty
that
cool.
for sure. All right, so next for me is the 2024 edition of DC Pride, just highlighting various LGBTQ members of the DC Comics universe. I'll say this is a $9.99 book, but this is a big old thick square bound book. I don't know if you can see that, but this is a big meaty book, and the cover and the back, like it's their cardstock, and they're really nice and slick. Like the physical quality of the book is really, really good. Um, this has 9 different stories in it. We got stories with Starman and Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn and Dreamer, John Kent and Jay and
There's one with Jackson Hyde,
right, yeah,
Aquaman, where he goes to. Is it he go to Apocalypse or?
I don't know. I didn't get a chance to read all the
Okay.
stories in here. That's one of the ones I didn't read.
Yeah.
But it looked pretty cool. There is a cool story, a Dreamer story, like I said, written by Nicole Maines, who does a great job anytime she writes these stories. And Dreamer kind of struggles to understand why she can do things that Natorians aren't really supposed to be able to do. Because she says, I thought it was just all about seeing dreams and stuff, and I can do laser blasts, and I don't know why. But she finds something that her mother left her that really helps her understand. So maybe we'll see more of that in other stories. There's a preview of the new Harley Quinn young adult graphic novel coming out this fall. It's called The Strange Case of Harleen and Harley, and Poison Ivy is part of that as well. And then there's a really great story called Spaces. This is written by Phil Jimenez, and it's kind of autobiographical, and it's a beautiful story about him growing up as a gay man and realizing that early on when he was a kid, and how he loved Wonder Woman from the get go, and how he finally got to write and draw Wonder Woman for DC in the 90s, and what that meant to him, but also what he felt when he had to write a story about the destruction of Themyscira right around the same time as 9/11, what that meant to him. It was a beautiful story. It really got to me a little bit. It's the last story of the book, and they should release that as just like a one shot or
Yeah.
something on its own, so that more people read it. It was so well done. I really liked it. So yeah, just if you're a fan of these characters, you get a whole bunch of them in here. Big old thick, really nicely put together book, all in one nice volume there. So we have our A cover right here. We got some really nice variants. This is the Talaski variant, featuring all of them hanging out on the
I think it's
beach.
a wraparound also.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
yep. We have this really nice Babs Tar variant with Ivy and Harley. And then we have this really nice Virgin foil version of that. And the foil on this, like
It's
it,
kind of spot
yeah,
foil.
it's spot foil. You can't really see it on the camera, but in person, this looks really, really nice. And then there is a 1 in 25 Wada variant. This is the Virgin version of the A cover right there. And we're selling that one for $65.
I really want to read that Dreamer one because the way she is in that Suicide Squad Dream Team
Hmm.
is kind of touching on that stuff too. Is like, why do I have these other
Yeah.
powers? Why are they like manifesting now?
Yeah.
And like, how dangerous am I? So that's cool that like the character is really consistent through all the different
I mean,
stories.
isn't it Nicole Maines that writes
Yeah,
it and all? Yeah, so that's
Nicole
probably
Maines has
why.
pretty much written anytime Dreamer's
Yeah.
shown up,
And
and
she's really
she's
good at it.
really
Yeah.
good. Okay, so next up for me, I've got Creature, let me tell the full title. Universal Monsters presents Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives #2. I should have thrown in Image Comics and Skybound
That's right.
present. So this is really cool. This is the second issue in this next of the Universal Monsters. We had Dracula, now we have Creature. We saw in the previous one, we have our main character, Kate, who is a journalist, who, on a case of a serial killer, kind of ran into the serial killer who attempted to drown her. And, you know, it took her time to recover from that, but she is still hot on his case. Kind of wants revenge by, like, exposing him, capturing him, all of that. And she's tracking him to the Amazon rainforest and, like, the little towns there and everything. Well, in the last one, she once again fell into the water and thought she saw a strange creature. Well, in this one, she wakes up and she doesn't quite know, you know, she's still suffering a lot from. She talks about that, I forgot what it's called, but with your lack of oxygen, where it kills a lot of brain cells, that it can cause a lot of like, hallucinations, all that. She's not quite sure if she really saw what she saw, but she is convinced that the killer is out there, that she kind of found some of his tracks, and so she goes to her doctor that's helping her with this, who is kind of a shady person in of himself, that they can take her back to that spot. But when they get there may be more than just the creature and the serial killer and all of that to contend with. This is the Amazon rainforest. A lot of shady business can be done under the trees. I thought it was really interesting, and you see some really cool creature from the Black Lagoon attacking action in
Oh,
this. You get
okay.
some stuff, but there's still a lot of questions about kind of the full story and how does all of this tie together, because the people who are going missing and turning up dead, that they've been drowned, there's something unusual about them that is also kind of a mystery through this whole thing. So I thought this issue #2 was really good. These are great. You know, this one we're getting the Frankenstein one next,
Hmm.
I think in July. So really, really fun. I love they have the Universal Monsters. We've got some variants for this as well, like this super awesome Francis Manipul cover.
Nice.
Love his work. We also have a 1 in 10 Danny variant that we're selling for $8.99. And we also have this 1 in 25 Francis Manipul black and white variant that we're selling for $19.99.
Yeah. Well, next for me is Drawing Blood #2. And this continues to be a pretty interesting series. There was less crime in this than I thought there would be.
Yeah.
Less crime elements and more just about showing all the pressure that Shane Bookman is under. Because again, this is very loosely based on Kevin Eastman's experiences. You know, very loosely based.
You can tell he knows the inner workings
Oh,
of the
for sure.
comic book
Yeah.
industry.
You know, because it's about this guy, Shane Bookman, who, with his partner, Frank, I believe, they created the radically rearranged Ronin Ragdolls, which is a trio of mutant female cat ninjas, basically. So it's very much like Eastman and Laird with the Ninja Turtles. But in this one, he's being pressured by the Lithuanian mob to pay the debt that Frank owed them. His play is opening in 3 months, and they still haven't found a lead. Though there is one woman who auditions that he's very smitten with. So more to come with that. And I think there's something there with you know, Eastman's past there as
Yeah.
well. Then there's a big radically rearrange Ronan Ragdoll's movie opening in 3 months, and he is asked to be a consultant on that. And also, there is a documentary crew, just a two-person documentary crew, following him around during all of this that he doesn't even remember agreeing to do in the first place. So he's having to deal with all of this stuff all at the same time. Like I said, it's a lot less crime based than the first one, than the first issue. There is still the Lithuanians there. They're hounding him for money, but it doesn't really factor in that much to this issue. Um, it's just sort of more days in the life stuff of this guy, but seeing how stressed out he was with all this stuff going on kind of stressed me out a little bit. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I hope, because it's like while he's trying to audition, the set's falling down and he's on a limited budget and he has to go do like it was very, very stressful, but still really cool to see. So just another good, great issue of this cool book. So we have our A cover right there by Kevin Eastman, and then there is this little variant, not a little variant, but the artist name is Little with the ragdolls on there and Shane.
Yeah. No, no small comparison to Ninja Turtles.
Right. Oh, for sure.
A team of ninja
Yeah.
animals. Okay, next up, really quick, just wanted to talk about Power Girl number 9. This is our House of Brainiac tie-in for the week. We've got this great homage cover to that Lobo issue. And in this, continuing Power Girl teaming up with Crush, who Power Girl learns in this one that Crush is Lobo's daughter. And, of course, they have a little spat back and forth for a minute, but they end up wanting to work together because Crush also thought that her and Lobo were the last Zarnians, only to learn there's some kind of leftover Zarnians in the city who are taking advantage of, all the heroes being away and want to cause mayhem. And they have like a device that turns things into weapons, pretty much. And so they go into an arcade. And so they get like some of the arcade guns from the games and turn those into weapons. And one of the guy has like one of the Guitar Hero guitars that turns into weapons. They're very like punk Zarnians, which is cool. I wouldn't say this is a super vital story to the overall House of Brainiac story. I do hope we see Power Girl back, when Superman returns to Earth and everything kind of reconvene. But it's a really fun, a little bit more lighthearted story than the stuff that's going on in the main House of Brainiac. But all the fun a Power Girl book brings. Plus, if you've been wondering where Lobo's dog is, whose name I believe is just Dog with a W.
Okay.
You see Dog in here, and that's pretty funny. Because Power Girl loves animals.
Yeah.
So that is our A cover. We also have, this is the Talaski variant. It's really cute. Very mid-century modern looking. And we also have this, let's see, this is a Tony Daniel variant.
Oh, I like that one.
Yep.
Well, we've got the next issue of Batman Dark Age. I think this is a 6-issue series, and this is the third one, so we're halfway there. Super
popular series.
Yeah, this one is really good too. The issue starts in 1971, so time is moving in more or less real time, just as just as these books do. Bruce Wayne is back in Gotham City now, and he has fully embraced the Batman identity. And most of this issue is him going up against the False Face Society, which is being directed or kind of under the control of the board of Wayne Enterprises. And it's just a big uphill battle because he talks about how Wayne Pharmaceuticals gives out their medicine, their drugs for free, and they say, oh, it's not addictive at all, but it really is. And then the prescriptions run out, but the people are still wanting the drugs, and that's how they go to the streets and they turn to crime and all that kind of stuff. And he's just one man, right? And it's really hard for him to battle against all this. However, he gets some allies in this book. I don't want to say who, but the cover is a clue there. But we do see a few different DC characters in this book, which is really cool to see sort of this story's version of them. Just another really cool issue of this series. This kind of, taking place in real time. It's wildly different than, this one wasn't as wildly different take on Batman as maybe like the second issue was with Bruce being in Vietnam and learning from Ra's al Ghul, that kind of stuff. But it's still just really cool. I love this so much, so I can't wait to see the rest of it. So we have our A cover right
Is it
here.
6 issues or 12 issues?
I think it's 6.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong. I think it's 6. We have this really nice Kevin Nolan variant. And then there's this 1 in 25 Lieber variant that we're selling for $12.99.
Batman does some major man spreading there.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think he man spreads that much in this issue.
Yeah, on Earth Prime, that's not what he does.
No, that's right.
Everywhere else. Okay, next up for me, I've got Wolverine number 50. This is the final issue of this run, this volume of Wolverine before it kicks off with the new From the Ashes Wolverine series that'll be coming up July, August, something around there.
I think so.
But
July.
We'll definitely be going over all of that when it's time for that. But this is wrapping up the really big run that we've got. Benjamin Percy's been working on, but we've got kind of a whole host of artists that have been working on the series the whole time, coming back to do a little bit of it. And this is the final showdown between Wolverine and Sabretooth. So that's been building in the Sabretooth War for so long. In this, it is super violent. Like, this kind of should be a red band one as well. Because you've got Wolverine, he's got his adamantium armor, and the, what's the sword called? I always forget.
Oh, Miramasa?
Yeah.
Or something?
The sword that can cut adamantium.
Right.
Wolverine's got both of
Muramasa?
those, and they are just going at it for most of this issue. And Wolverine wants to make sure when he's done with Sabretooth is not getting back up from this. And I will say, after reading this, I don't know how you will be able to bring Sabretooth back. But you'll have to read it to find out.
But it is a comic book. And
it is a comic, and
anything can happen.
Timey-wimey. But, so there's a big kind of main story in this that's all been building to. It includes all of the other characters that have been kind of supporting characters through this entire run. The X-Force is there, all of that. We also have a second story in here by Larry Hama, which is really cool. It kind of feels more like a classic Wolverine story. He's in his black tank top and cowboy hat era. Nice. It's really cool. That one also has Jubilee in it, which I always love their relationship. And then there's a final kind of like punctuation story on this by Benjamin Percy that's really cool. That's just kind of like a this is Wolverine. You see all the different forms of Wolverine and kind of what they mean, and how, he has Patch, and he has, his time when he was with like Maverick and stuff.
Oh yeah.
All the different Weapon X, all of that, but how it kind of makes up one Wolverine. And then kind of a big thank you at the end from Benjamin Percy. But then we also get some preview pages for the new Wolverine series in here, which is just cool to see. You can see them online and everything, but to see them printed and kind of get a feel of how it's going to look in hand is really, really cool. So if you've been reading this Wolverine series, I wouldn't suggest jumping on with this issue.
Nope.
You'll be jumping on and jumping off real fast. But this is our A cover. We also have this really nice Chichetto variant. Would love to see more of that, please. We have the super cool kind of sound effects variant by Mason.
I want a Nightcrawler Banff, one of those.
That feels apt.
Yeah.
And we also have a 1 in 25 Scharf variant we're selling for $39.99.
Well, next is Spider-Boy number 7, and this is the end of this story arc. Not the end of the series.
You rascal.
I got you. In this one, Christina manages to get a message out to Spider-Man about everything that's going on at Madame Monstrosity's base. And then Spider-Man pulls together everyone you see here on the cover, who coincidentally is everybody who Spider-Boy has kind of teamed up with over the course of this series so far. So all of these characters come together to mount a big attack on Madame Monstrosity's base and freeze not only Spider-Boy, but all of the other animal people that are there. And it seems like with all of these heroes, it would be an easy task to do that, right? But Madame Monstrosity has a few tricks up her sleeve that's going to make it not so easy for them to pull this off. But just another really fun, just a fun book. It's a fun issue of Spider-Boy. And yeah, can't wait to see where he goes after this because there are still a few lingering plot threads,
There
and
are.
there's still some things they have to address. But kind of put this first little story arc, wrapped it up with a bow. So there's our A cover right there, and then the only other cover we have is this 1 in 25 Raja variant that we're selling for $29.99. I love that you can see the reflection of his hand
Yeah.
in the eyes. That's really cool.
Also, I love Toy Soldier.
Yeah,
That
he's
is one
great.
of the other greatest inventions in this
Yeah,
series. Uh,
basically the super adaptoid, but the size of an action figure. And he speaks very proper, like,
he's almost like classic Captain
yeah,
America.
fantastic job, citizen, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's great.
I he honestly it'd be great if he like joined a team like not associated with Spider Boy. They just
Right.
had this action figure on their team. So good. Okay, next up for me, I have Rise of the Powers of X or 10, number 5, and this is the final issue of this miniseries. We already got the last issue of House, and now this is the final issue of Powers before we get the Legacy Uncanny X-Men 700
Yep.
coming up very soon.
And that'll be it.
Yeah, that'll be it for the X-Men forever.
Right.
Bye,
No more
X-Men.
X-Men. Yeah.
No, but this one I'm actually interested to see what's in Uncanny 700. I know it's an oversized issue. I feel like it's going to be a lot of like celebrating the X-Men and everything because this wraps up pretty much the majority of the Krakoan era things.
Okay.
As you can see on the cover, this heavily uses Phoenix. Of course, when you have the like abstract thought of a character that's Enigma, that's been through a lot of this, is kind of like ethereal, super computer AI thing. You have to have something equally big to go up against it, and that is Phoenix, who is channeling pretty much every X-Men ever. Uh, there's the White Hot Room, which is kind of is the waiting room for mutants when they die.
Oh.
And she can now harness the power of all of them as well.
Hmm.
So it is a very like god level fight you see in this one. The other really interesting part of this is Charles Xavier is meeting with Myra McTaggart one last time in her mind, which she doesn't even understand because she's like, I'm like a robot now. And he's like, I have my ways of talking to you and stuff. But I would say is the most Dr. Manhattan thing I've read since Watchmen, because Xavier's like, it's this long ago. I do this one little thing.
Oh yeah.
And I stopped Scott from finding out that that Jean is with Wolverine, or like he's like all these different things, and this is what changes the time and everything. But is there any saving Myra? You'll have to read it to find out. Is there a future for her, or is she going down with the ship? But you do get a little bit of an idea of some of the plot points going forward into the next X-Men stuff. But I think a lot of that will be fleshed out in the Uncanny 700. So, really great final issue of this, especially if you're a big fan of action and over the top and all of that. We've got this A cover right here. We also have this Sway variant.
Well, next is Avengers Twilight number 6. And I can't really say much about this without spoiling everything because this is the end of this miniseries. But I will tell you that it is the final battle between the Avengers and the Red Skull, while Thor battles the Hulk, which is really cool. So lots of big action in this one. And there is one surprise that I didn't see coming. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but one last... or maybe a failsafe that had been put in place long ago that's going to help out the Avengers a bit. We'll say that, but I won't say anything more than that. But it's a really cool wrap up to this series. Thought it was awesome. And so if you've been buying this, don't miss out on the finale this week. It is out. We have our A cover right here. And then we have this 1 in 25 Lionel Francis U variant that we're selling for $19.99.
Next up for me, I've got William of Newbury, number 1. This is written, drawn, colored, everything by Michael Avon Oeming. And the best description I would say is Hellboy meets like Wind in the Willows or something like that. It's an animal world with a bunch of little animals, but with the like story and tone of Hellboy. Because we have William, who is a raccoon, but he's like a little priest or a monk, and he's afraid. I wouldn't say he's afraid, but he's very like hesitant of like people and all of that. But when it comes to the supernatural, super confident, no problem. Because in the beginning of this, we see him go down into like a crypt, and there's like a big like spirit ghost thing. He's like, oh, good. I thought this was gonna be like bandits or something. I can deal with you, but he kind of is not doesn't get along with the abbey that he works at because they say he's not bringing in enough money. But he does what he thinks is right and goes from town to town, kind of banishing ghosts and demons and all of that. And in this one, he's got to go to a neighboring town where the spirit of a woman's husband haunts her, and it's up to him to figure out why and kind of how to dispel this. It's a bunch of cute little animals. The head of the abbey is a little rabbit. William's a raccoon. There's all of those kind of little things, but tonally very Hellboy like. I thought it was really fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I kind of hope it keeps doing kind of one and done stories
Yeah.
because that's really good with this format. But that is our only cover.
Oh, nice. Well, last for me is Green Arrow number 12, and not the end of the series because this has now been extended to an ongoing series, but this is just kind of the end of the first big major arc or story that this series has been telling so far. Everything's been leading to this, the final showdown between Green Arrow and Malcolm Merlyn. That's a whole big fight, but even better than that, it is the reunion of the entire Green Arrow family. We see them all together, every single one of them, and the ending it was really sweet. Like, it's really nice. It was a good, warm, fuzzy ending. And then what happens next? I don't know, but I can't wait to find out. So just want to let you know about the new issue of Green Arrow. We have our A cover right here, and then we have this really nice Gleb Melnikov variant with Green Arrow and Black Canary. And then here is the AAPI Heritage Month cover featuring Red Canary, who I really like a lot.
And it says Road to Absolute Power. Do you get any hints of that?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, not really.
Just
that's one of the few books that says Road to Absolute or Countdown to Absolute Power, but there's not really.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe next issue, probably.
Yeah. Okay, and lastly for me, I've got Star Wars Jango Fett number 3. This is another really fun issue. I think this has one more after it. I'm not quite sure. But in this, Django's been looking for this gem that he's been hired to find that's going to unite these two peoples of this world and prevent a war from happening. But the problem is, the person who stole it, he doesn't know what they look like. So it's kind of a blind hunt, but he has his ways of figuring it out and kind of getting them to come out of their hiding hole. That's really cool. Plus, he's being hunted by Aura Singh. And there is maybe more to this bounty job than he originally thought. And he may be getting duped. So we'll have to see how he deals with that going forward. But a really fun issue of Star Wars Jango Fett. And we also have this really nice Sprouse Phantom Menace 25th anniversary cover as well.
I remember that scene.
Yes. Fun scene. And I believe that is it for this week. So a lot of really good books. Hopefully you're better prepared when you head into your local comic book store or you shop with us at infinityflux.net. You know a little bit better what you want, what sounds like it fits you, and what you can afford, all that good stuff. We're here to inform. So remember to like, subscribe, do all of that if you have not already. We really appreciate it. Plus, we've got our video coming up on Wednesday where we'll be going over the books that you can pre-order.
Some of the books.
Some of them.
Yeah.
It's our shorter show where we do that. But I will say, we've got our first Absolute Power related book that says that on the cover.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. And
if you made it this far, we've done the blood hunts and all that stuff. I really liked Grommets. So leave us a little skateboard emoji because that was such a good book. Yeah, it was great.
I had a skateboard wreck yesterday. Fun fact.
I saw a video of you on a skateboard.
Yep, it ended with a wreck. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and until next time,
see ya.